Hello and thank you for watching this first video in our new bi-weekly series FIDH Explains, where we examine the war in Ukraine in light of international law. In this introductory video, we would like to dispel 3 myths regarding the war in Ukraine. Myth number 1, there is an ongoing special military operation in Ukraine. This is false. Since President Putin's announcement of the beginning of the so-called special military operation, it has been forbidden in Russia to refer to the situation in Ukraine as war, which is what it really is under international law. To begin with, there is no such thing under international law as a special military operation. What we usually refer to as war is called either an international or non-international armed conflict. The existence of either of these is determined by facts on the ground, regardless of the internal qualification by the parties. Under the Geneva Conventions, a set of treaties ratified by both Russia and Ukraine that govern the conduct of war, an international armed conflict exists whenever there is a resort to armed force between states, even if the state of war is not recognized by one of them. So after Russia's latest invasion of Ukraine, there is a classic international armed conflict between the two states, no matter what Russia calls it internally. In non-legal speak, it is as war as it gets. It is important to call a war war because there are a set of rules that are applicable to the conduct of war, including the obligation of states parties during occupation. Myth number 2, Russia's actions are somehow justified as self-defense against NATO enlargement, to repel an armed attack against Russia or so-called Lugansk or Donetsk People's Republics, or to stop genocide in eastern Ukraine. These are all absolutely false. Under Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, the founding document of the UN, individual or collective self-defense is only permitted in case of an armed attack against a UN member state. Even if there was NATO enlargement onto Ukraine's territory, which there was not, this does not amount to an armed attack, which is a precise legal term involving the use of kinetic force. Secondly, Ukraine never attacked Russia. Thirdly, even if there was an attack against so-called Lugansk or Donetsk People's Republics by Ukraine, that attack would have been an attack against a non-state entity, not a UN member state. Thus, the right to self-defense would not have been triggered. In fact, it was Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine that constituted an armed attack and an act of aggression, as recognized by the UN General Assembly in its resolution on March 2nd of this year. With respect to genocide, there is nothing even remotely close to genocide that has been going on in eastern Ukraine's Donbas region, as has been determined by the International Court of Justice in its ruling against Russia. Myth number 3, the war in Ukraine began on 24 February 2022. This is false. The February 24 invasion constituted a new act of aggression by Russia against Ukraine, but the war really began back in 2014 when Russia first occupied, then annexed Crimea and caused the eruption of violence in eastern Ukraine that led to the international armed conflict, which continues to this day. In fact, this latest attack just constituted the second large-scale offensive in the international armed conflict. Thank you for watching this first installation of the video series FIDH Explains, and stay tuned for the next video.